guys, this is Jeff from Evans Tuning. In today's Tele Tune episode, we have a 2016 Ford Focus RS. It's equipped with a drop-in filter and it has an engine mount. It also has a Cobb access port. So we're going to get this on the dyno. We're going to do baseline pulls. The Cobb has 93 octane flash on it. We're going to baseline it with that flash, and then I'm going to start doing some logging and figuring out the PCM and some of the advanced tables and things. I'll probably get into that later in the video. And then we're going to do a pro tune on it, and then we're going to see how much we can extract over a Cobb tune, and should be interesting. I haven't had one in yet, and pretty excited to tune this. So here we go. Probably the first time these wheels have been off, right?
Yeah, it's no rock. Downpipe in the intercooler?
Yep.
Because the downpipe has a couple different inconsistencies in it.
Okay. It may not be in there. We might have. I might be able to make a couple files with the launch control moved up and down like a few hundred RPMs.
Yeah, so put it at 45 and then
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
On the torque. Jeez.
358, 327.
What was the horsepower?
327.
Yeah. And that's just 93 octane?
Yeah, I just put it in sport.
Yeah. When it switches over to, track mode, that just changes the suspension as far as I can feel. That doesn't change anything on the power band.
So we got the car strapped on the dyno and did the baseline pull on the 93 octane Cobb tune. Put down 358 torque and 327 wheel. Pretty solid start. I'm going to start logging a bunch of channels. I have to figure out where the computer is sourcing the ignition and fuel tables from. There's a parameter in the ECU Ford the programming from Ford in the ECU logic that's called an HDFX, which is the high degree of freedom of execution. So it allows the PCM to move from table to table based on certain conditions. I need to figure out where it's riding in those particular conditions. I need to figure out which tables it's on so that I actually know which ones to adjust for fuel ignition. So I'm going to set all that logging stuff up right now. I'm going to start logging. It's going to take me probably a few pulls to figure out exactly what the PCM is doing, and then from there I can start making changes and start the actual tuning process. Throttle's like opening and closing as you drive it, because that's how Ford does all of their, they call everything torque. Everything's torque based in the computers.
Yeah.
So everything's modeled in torque. So boost is effectively torque. Throttle is effectively torque. So to control torque, they use throttle movement because it's the easiest and quickest thing instead of messing. It does boost control and it does throttle movement. So it'll roll back throttle for torque reduction, and that's pretty much what it always does to try to control what's going on. So the first line of defense is always like throttle manipulation. I'm trying to figure this out, which tables these correspond to, and of course there's thousands of tables. So it doesn't feel like it's like manipulating.
No, you don't feel like you wouldn't feel like when you're on and off the throttle.
You won't feel like it's really fast.
No, so you wouldn't even notice it. No.
You wouldn't notice that throttle manipulation because it's maintaining a relatively consistent torque band. But when you plot it on the dyno, you see all the you see the waviness and stuff to it. Okay, I'm gonna just go one at a time here. I'm gonna try to get the spark, like the actual ignition timing dialed in first, and then move to the throttle and see what's going on with that. So we've made a few pulls in the dyno with the car, and one of the first things that I do when I start tuning any EcoBoost is I log the HDFX, which is the high degree of freedom of execution. So there's 15 different tables that you can log, and the ECU is constantly dynamically moving around from table to table, and it's also sourcing different fuel and ignition points during all that movement. To properly tune one of these, you have to figure out what table is being used at what RPM and what load, and etc. So I log the actual channels, and then I'm able to see how much weighting difference it gets based on the RPM where I'm going up during the dyno pull. So in this particular car, I was able to log everything, and I can see what ignition tables, specifically that's what I'm concerned with right now, that it's sourcing while making a dyno pull. Also, I also log other channels. They're called source channels. So there's a channel that corresponds to spark. There's a channel that corresponds to fuel, to throttle, to torque. These channels basically give you what the ECU is doing. So when you're on full throttle, you should be on some ignition tables called borderline spark. They're primarily the table that the ECU should reference. It doesn't have to, but when you're tuning, it makes it simpler to make them just use the borderline spark. When I pulled up the logs from this particular car with this calibration, I'm seeing that it's not riding on the borderline spark. It's on in a reduction mode for cylinder pressure. So I'm trying to figure out now what ignition tables correspond to the to that cylinder pressure and the spark reduction. So on top of that, I was also logging the electric throttle source channel, and I'm seeing that I'm getting torque reduction. So while we're making a pull, the dyno graph's actually not super smooth. You'll be able to see it. It's kind of wavy back and forth. That's actually the throttle plate constantly moving open and close to be able to hold the desired torque that the engine modeling is showing in the computer. So there's a desired torque, and the engine tries to run that. It does that by multiple different ways, but by throttle angle and boost on the EcoBoost is primarily how it controls the torque. So this particular car, it's getting full throttle, and then it's backing itself off, and then getting full throttle again and backing itself off during the dyno pull. So it's doing this, and when you plot it out on a graph, it's kind of wavy up and down, which is making the dyno graph itself wavy. So first plan of attack is to go in and try to get the spark source to go on 2, which is borderline spark tables, so that I can go in and tune those. Then the second plan of attack is to get the throttle to stay open. We might have to request less torque and tweak the boost tables so that the throttle stays open. We might make a little less boost, but we'll have a little bit smoother power band going throughout. So it's going to take a little bit of manipulation, some more data logging, but the process is super slow to tune the EcoBoosters. They're really, really complex. Ford computers are probably the most complex computers that I work with. The modeling is on all of the 2015 and newer specifically is super, super, super complex. But I'm gonna go start making some changes and do some more logging and see what we can find. So I've made a few more pulls, and I was able to make the spark source show me a value of 2, which corresponds to the borderline spark tables under full throttle. Now I'm actually tuning the borderline spark tables that correspond to where the computer is sourcing its movement from as far as riding through different timing maps. So I've been making a few pulls and making adjustments. I'm just finishing up a flash right now, actually, with some more timing reduction because I'm getting a little bit of knock during the pulls. Once I figured that out, then we're going to move to the throttle control and try to get the throttle body to stay open during the pull instead of manipulating back and forth and moving the throttle plate around. So we just finished the flash up, and we're going to make a pull and see how it goes. So I've made a whole bunch more pulls and done a whole bunch more logging, and I'm able to now make pulls knock-free. I got the torque thresholds raised a little bit higher, so now that the throttle stays open, the graph is also a little bit smoother now as well. So we're making some more torque, making some more power. It still is a factory turbo and mostly stock car, so I can't go too much more. The intercooler is usually the first thing that needs to be upgraded on the EcoBoost cars because the heat soaks so bad. So I'm going to limit what I'm going to command for boost, or in effect the way this ECU works in torque. I'm watching, there's a OAR and octane adjust ratio, and -1 is, it's like learning no knock. It's like a DAM on Subaru at 1.0.
Yeah.
It's the opposite on the front. It's like negative. So it starts off at -1 as it, and if it gets knock, it counts up to 0 positive, and then that's actually knocking crazy. It's constantly reducing the overall timing to try to save the motor. There's also per cylinder knock correction.
Yeah.
So if it pulls timing during the pull, then it's knocking. If it adds timing, because these are dynamic, if it adds timing, then it's actually, the knock sensor's happy, the ignition timing tables are happy. So once I got the ECU to ride back on the borderline knock tables, the one that should be on, and then I tune those, now it's adding 1 to 3 degrees, so it's adding advance to that. And the OAR, every time I flash it, starts off at -8.5, and -0.85. And as I do a pull, that number keeps jumping up to like -1.0 because it's like not knocking.
Yeah.
So I'm able to make that power with like a touch more requested boost and a little bit better throttle modulation, but riding with the correct spark table.
Now, is the square ones on the graph, that's the throttle modulation?
Yeah, down here, down low, it's still trying to do it, to pull it here. And then up top, it only goes like 20% here, but like down here, that's where it's coming up in torque, and if I don't let it throttle modulate, it's gonna overboost a bit, and not overboost, but in the sense of what the ECU would think, it's over torquing the engine.
Now where's it dying off on the graph? Because I was shifting at 61 before.
It's dying off right around like 61.
61, so just keep that. I shouldn't have to roll it any further.
Yeah, it's not doing anything.
Yeah, it's stagnant.
You can feel it too.
Yeah, no, you should sit there and it's not moving at all.
Yeah. Unless like the calibration stuff's way off for some reason.
Yeah.
It's gonna run in closed loop, and the fuel trims are gonna adjust it. I mean, I was just kind of when I was part throttling it, all the fuel trims are like normal, like plus or minus like 5%. Like it's all fine, and it should be because you really don't have much done.
No, that's nothing. Yeah.
So yeah, that's all good. Yeah, it's primarily I just focus on the full prop stuff. That's what most of the time on the EcoBoost, because it's all direct injection and you don't really, no one's doing like cams or any of that stuff yet. Usually all of that stuff is just left alone, and you're more so doing full throttle.
What do we pick up?
Over the Cobbs, I think it's like 40 or 50 torque and like 20, 30 wheel.
For nothing on the car.
Right.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So we just wrapped up tuning this Ford Focus RS, put down 415 torque, 350 wheel, picked up about 60 foot-pounds of torque, about 20 to 30 horsepower over the 93 octane Cobb tune. Pretty damn impressive. All it has done is an air filter and an engine mount, which obviously doesn't affect power. During the tune, the power was gained from playing a little bit with boost, keeping the throttle open, making the ignition timing more consistent, and also playing a little bit of the fueling. You know, solid power, pretty happy with the results. You know, stay tuned to our channel, like, subscribe, make sure you click the logo here, and see you in the next video.